morning. So good afternoon to all of you. I'm sure you guys are ready for the weekend. It's getting closer. Every day getting closer and closer to the end of the year. I was just sharing with Carrie today how I assigned an essay, not very smart, towards the end here, and wanted to kind of raise a level of expectation. My students didn't do very well. So I've been having a lot of parent conversations and phone calls and even visits from parents. And I've decided to scrap the rest of the year and not go on vacation, but definitely work with my students to rewrite their essays. So I'm doing away with my plans for the rest of the year. I've got 3 weeks left, and I'm going to start with the revision process again, help them every step of the way from beginning to end, sentence by sentence. So it's going to be interesting, but I'm not sure why we do this as teachers at the very end. But we do. I constantly do it every year. So it's just kind of funny. I just kind of laugh at myself. So maybe a couple of you can connect with that, where at the end of the year we assign these things, and then we get a little scared when they don't perform the way we think they should at the end. So I'm going to work with them. We're going to be doing some rewriting. So we're back in step 2 in the writing process. So thought you might enjoy that a little bit. For our agenda today, it's going to be, I think, interesting. We're going to start with the 3rd step in the writing process, and then we're going to move to talking about publication options, how we publish, what publishing actually means, what that looks like. And then we're going to spend the rest of the time talking about writing fluency, which we haven't been able to talk about. So there's going to be activities for you to complete, things to share. So I'm excited about that. I'm going to share my screen with you so you can see the agenda. I'm sure all of you have it in front of you. But if you do not, that is no problem. I'm going to share it with you right now. So my screen now becomes the place to look for the agenda. So we are looking at 3 things today. Once we get through the step 3, we're going to go into fluency, writing fluency. I have some great things to share with you, some activities and strategies that you can think about using next year that work very, very well when developing fluency. And then LiteracyTA school-wide membership. I wanted to talk to you guys about next steps and where we're going. So it's a good day. We've got about an hour with each other, and this is unfortunately our last one, but I'm sure I'll be back at some point, or whether it be online or in person. So let's start with the first part, which is publish and share, and what we can do with that. So when we talk about publishing and we talk about our students taking their work and moving it to the next level, we're really talking about making it ready for public. So that could be in a book, that could be typing their work in a word processing application. It could be a little bit fancier, like using Prezi. So they publish something where they are going to maybe do some visual displays. And it could be as simple as rewriting their work with images. I have to say that some of my most successful writing assignments have been when I ask my students to write and then incorporate images at the end. If I put images in the beginning, the students spend so much time on the images, whether they're drawing them or finding them online, that the writing becomes secondary. But when I tell them that we're going to be writing and then we're going to be incorporating images later, that it seems to motivate them to get through the writing, and then we can put in pictures. So there's a couple of ways to do this. Exemplars are probably the best way. So one thing you might want to consider is what types of magazines or other professional publications do you have access to that you could bring into your classroom that can be models for your students. So for example, Time Magazine, I'm going to explain one thing that I did with my 10th grade students, and I'm sure your elementary students can do some version of this. I showed them a persuasive op-ed page that has an image in the middle, and I had my students see that there's 2 columns of text, and in the middle is a picture, and then at the top is the author's picture, and then the title. And I said, this is going to be the format that I want you to use when you publish. We've written our essay, it's in Google Docs. Now I want you guys to incorporate that image and take your text, instead of it going left to right, and I'm going to create 2 columns. So we're going to have 2 columns with an image, and then there's going to be a picture of you at the top left. And just having them incorporate an image that goes with the text, changing their text to columns versus straight across what they traditionally do, got them so excited about writing. Then when they were all done, we had these 1 or 2 page texts that all looked uniform and had the same kind of format. And it was a lot of fun. The kids liked it. I put it into a book, a simple book that they could all look at and share. And it was just a lot of fun getting that image and teaching them how to use images, whether it's in Google Docs or Word or another word processing program that you use. So think about your 3rd to 5th grade students and how you can take images and make their writing a little bit more interesting, or get them to think about how they might use an image to enhance what they're saying as a point of maybe clarification or persuasive appeal if you want them to persuade on a topic. How can I take an image that makes my writing even more persuasive? What can I show? That kind of thinking process is really good, and at the same time, they're getting excited. So at the same time that you're pushing them to do something that's a little bit outside of the box, they're also getting excited because it's fun and I get to put an image in. So it's a different way of publishing. Another way of doing it, of course, is using something like Prezi, where they can either insert their essay into Prezi and then add images all around it. They can focus on parts of their essay and it can kind of come in and move around. You could have them retype their essay in Prezi and have them do different things, make it different colors. There's some fun ways to use these presentation softwares as well and make it kind of interesting for them and different. Of course, the general step 3, the most typical step 3 publication is having students type their essay, format it, and turn it in. So for 3rd grade, that's a big step. For 3rd grade, having them take their handwritten pieces, type them, and then turn them in, that's a big step for publication. And I would think that that would be something that you would strive to do throughout the year. For 5th grade, they're more a little bit older. They can handle a lot more. Giving them a digital space where they can put digital pictures is going to be something that's more suitable. Going back to 3rd grade, though, those images can be incorporated, but maybe they're hand-drawn. Maybe you give them some space to put a picture at the bottom of something that they've typed, or you give them a way to handwrite something and then they find a digital picture and then they glue that on. So there's a couple of different directions that you can go. Another way that we can publish is having kids read their work. Don't be afraid to have them read to groups of 4. Instead of having each child come up to the room, if you've got 25, 28 kids, that's a long time. It's a lot of reading. Some of you might have more than that, 30 kids. That's a lot of reading to do and lots of sitting for the class. So think about how you can have your kids publish their writing by simply reading it to groups of 4. So maybe you can have a reading section for that day where they 4 kids move to an area and they take turns reading their work to each other. You can have them vote. I like this one the best. Okay, now you're going to read this to someone else, or read it to 8 people, or read it to the whole class. So there's lots of different ways you can do that. Which got me thinking about, in the standards, there's speaking and listening standards. And I thought, you know, to be more efficient as teachers, how can we take a publishing step in the writing process and connect it to some of the speaking and listening standards? So what I'm essentially saying is, instead of seeing the speaking and listening standards as separate activities, acts, learning moments, how can we blend the speaking and listening standards into the writing process that we're already doing with our kids? So I then started to think about, well, what type of standards could blend? Well, obviously, standards 1 and 6 are about speaking, using academic language, changing your voice and your tone and your vocabulary to fit your audience. So that's one that blends perfectly. Number 2 is to use modern software to record you retelling a story or telling a story that's original. So that's interesting. So if I have my kids write a story and then use modern publishing software to record that story and save it in an MP3 or do a podcast, Now I have something I can do. Okay, I'm going to hit that standard in my third step in the writing process. Makes sense? So there's a couple of things that we can do to be smart about our speaking and listening standards instead of creating separate activities or assignments. So my very first thing out of the gate I'd like us to do is take a look at, it's going to be a two-step here. One is take a look at our speaking standards, which I've created a link in the agenda, so you can click on it, and it's going to actually drop you, I think, in 4th grade. It was kind of in the middle. So if you need to go 3rd grade or you need to go 5th grade, you could just click the different grade level on the right-hand side. But to get you to the right page, I have a link to the standards. Click on them, and it will take you to 4th grade speaking and listening if I've done that correctly. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen because I'm going to need to move in that direction. So here we go. Here's the agenda here. I'm going to click on the standards, and it's going to open up to, if I did my work correctly, speaking and listening grade 4. So that's where I am right now. If you're a 3rd grade teacher, you can click on the 3rd grade, and the page will refresh to 3rd grade. And then, of course, if you're 5th grade, the same thing will happen if you're a 5th grade teacher. So these are the speaking and listening standards. Now, when you get into, if you look at 3rd grade, there's not going to be too many substandards, but they do indeed have them actually right here. These are more of the specific descriptors that define 3.1, which is standard 1, SL1 for 3rd grade. I really want you to focus on this next activity on the main standard, not necessarily the descriptors. So you've got the main standard 3.1, and then you have 3.2. Then you have 3.3, and so on all the way to 6. Someone at one of your schools is going to stand up, not literally, but stand up for the group, and they're going to, in this collaborative document, if you guys follow me here, please, you're going to go to the agenda, click on collaborative document, and it's going to take you to a Google Doc. Someone from each school site and grade level is going to go to the standards and cut and paste the standards for SL1 all the way to SL6. Then on the right-hand side, if you're a 3rd grade teacher, you guys are going to give some examples as to how you can blend the writing experience with the speaking experience. So if the standard says use use modern devices for recording or to publish work, then we could talk about how that might look. So where is that going to look? So if I look at my standards, I believe it says, yeah, so it says create engaging audio recordings. I'm in 3rd grade right now. So create engaging audio recordings of stories or poems that demonstrate fluid reading. So I'm going to copy, simply go over to my 3.5 standards, and that was under standard 5. And I'm just going to paste that standard right in here. I'm going to go ahead and go into format, and I'm going to clear the format so it tightens up a little bit. And now I'm going to go ahead and come up with some ideas and share with my 3rd grade teachers across the district. How do we get that done? Create engaging audio recordings. So you can say students can write original stories or retell stories through writing. Then, maybe after peer review. And then I know that some of you are using a workshop model. That's absolutely fine. If you're using a different writer's workshop, then you can use that. That's no problem as long as students have an opportunity to look at their work. After peer review, have students use, and then whatever program that is, to record their stories. Students practice maybe tone of voice, enunciations, or you know what I mean. So you give a little an idea of how what we're doing with writing can fit what's going on with the speaking and listening, and we could be so much more efficient this way and really give some dynamic to our classes so that we're not always doing, well, turn it in their paper, turn in your paper, turn in your paper. There's some different ways that we can publish. So I've given you a model. I'm going to let you go. Someone can delete this if you want to, but don't delete SL5. Someone is going to have to step up or stand up and start cutting and pasting the standards into each grade level, 1 to 6. Then you guys will have time to write some ideas. And I'm going to give you roughly 10 to 15 minutes to get this done. And I'm going to be here monitoring, watching, helping out. If you have questions, you can ask me, unmute your mic, or you can type in the chat. But otherwise, the goal here is to come up with some things you can do going into next year that involve speaking and listening as a way to accomplish step 3 in the writing process. Ready, go.
Jonathan.
Okay, let me look at it. Let me look.
Somebody else is starting to move. Yeah.
In view. All right, I'll fix it. Sorry. All right, see, it was so dramatic, and then nothing. Nothing happened. All right, try it now. I think it's going to work. Yay, okay. I apologize. Let's take one more minute. You guys are doing a great job. Very good ideas. I hope that all of you are seeing the power of this. This is incredible thinking and great collaborating. So we'll take one more minute and then move on to our next discussion. But this is all very, very good stuff. Okay, let's go ahead and come back together. Uh, Great conversation you guys just had. And I think I would be making a mistake with this group, since you guys are kind of middle to upper elementary, not to talk about how powerful this can be with your own students. Um, so getting kids involved in Google Docs. Many of you are doing it, some of you haven't started. But my suggestion is think about how you might use Google Docs next year in simple ways. So our first grade consultant uses, one of our first grade consultants teaches her students how to use Word. And she goes in the lab and they open up Word and it does its little opening thing, and she teaches them about a cursor and how to type and how to underline. And I asked her, why are you teaching them about Word? And she says, well, that's just a general, word processing. And I said, okay, what if you went online and did it? What if you taught them how to sign in to their student accounts that the district pays for, and then you got them to use Google Docs? And I said, it's still word processing. There's far fewer tools to choose from, so they don't have to worry about it. And it's pretty intuitive how to use it. And then they can share it with you, and you can check to see how they're doing. You can give them homework assignments, little simple homework assignments like, tell me about your favorite book. And they have to use Google Docs, and they write. Now, this is first grade. In third through fifth, you can start to develop like book lists. You can create a document like I did, like the agenda, and say, hi class, this is where we're going to link to our book lists for today's homework assignment. Follow the link, and it will take you to a table. The kids can then link to it, or you could take them to a lab. It doesn't have to be homework, and you can link to that table, and they can add all these wonderful book titles simultaneously into one document, and you have that, and then they can go back and they can look at what books other people have said are good, or something I've read that I really love. There's so many different things you could do. You could do a reading, and at their tables, if you guys, some schools have more technology than others, but at a table you can have them do a reading and then say, all right, group 4, you're in this box. I want you to write the main idea and details of what you just read. Go. And they're typing it, and then another group is doing another part of the book or section of the text. And you can have this online, live, collaborative experience, and it's really rewarding. It's easy. The kids get motivated by it, and you're teaching them a very valuable career skill. You're teaching them how to use an online a document that can be manipulated in real time, that can be added to by other brains in real time, that can track changes. So it's really, really exciting to get them into that medium. And then you're checking off other standards as well while you're doing that, because students have to publish using modern technology, modern tools. They've got to collaborate in different environments. So you're checking off a lot of standards by simply making the shift from using Microsoft Word to using Google. There's nothing wrong with Microsoft Word. It just is it's a static platform in that sense, because kids can't access it. Now, if you are Microsoft true all the way and you don't want to deviate from Microsoft, and then there's I believe a product called Microsoft 360, and that's an online Word, online PowerPoint, online Excel that you could do. I don't know if you can collaborate in real time. You probably can, but I think it's called, at least it was called Microsoft 360 a couple of years ago. They might have changed the name, but if you Google Microsoft 360, you'll probably find something that's similar to Google Docs. So if you are all about Microsoft, then that's something I suggest you do. Google is beneficial in a couple of ways. Using Google, one, it's all tied together and seamless, so I can create class folders, kids can share it with me, it coordinates with my email. There's all these different things that works really well. And it's not scary. It's something else to think about, but it's really not scary. There's not that many moving parts with Google that can get you hung up, lost, or confused. It's pretty straightforward how to use it if you can just understand what this cloud is, which is just the internet, and that you have a little file in the cloud, and that file gives you access to different things. And you can show those files in different ways, through links or through your Google Drive. So it's not as complex as it might seem. It seems really, really fancy and advanced, but it's pretty basic in how it rolls out. So I would encourage you to, as you do these with your colleagues, to think about how you might incorporate them into your classrooms going into next year, and how valuable that can be for your young writers. All right, so this is kind of some more fun. This is about fluency. I'm not going to speak too long about dialectical journals, but I wanted to put in a piece for dialectical journals because I think they're important for reading. So one way to get kids writing more is to have them do a side-by-side journal. They can do responses and reactions to what they're reading. It could be more analytical in nature, but I think where we're at right now with your kids, we probably want to do some response writing. So you can have them write a summary of what happened in the text, or you can have them drop a quote in on the left if it's a T-chart graphic organizer, and on the right-hand side you can have them respond, connect to what's happening, make some compare and contrast to the character and themselves. Dialectical journals are a great way to engage kids in the reading process, and they're not very difficult to set up, and they're very easy to manage. So that's a quick and easy way. If you've used dialectical journals, maybe you want to use them more. Maybe you can find ways to use them in different subjects when you're teaching different subjects. If you can do a dialectical journal with history, for example, or social studies, that might be something that you want to do. The other one, as I look over at the agenda, is a student writing journal. And I have to say, I've been waiting to talk to you guys about this because even though you're 3 to 5 and I teach 8th grade, you definitely have an opportunity here to set up a really cool journal. So I'm going to talk about it, and if you want to take notes, or even if someone wants to write notes on the agenda, oh, you can. I don't think I gave you editing rights on the agenda, but maybe I can come back. The writing journal, for me, is one of the most powerful tools that I have in my classroom. My students write every day for 10 to 15 minutes, and they write about a variety of things. When I was in high school, my English teachers asked me to interpret quotes from famous work, and that's what we did every day. And it was a little boring. I didn't like it as much. Some of the quotes I liked, some of them I didn't. But it was predictable and boring and wasn't something that I was very interested in. As I went through my credential program and eventually ended up getting my master's degree in rhetoric, I realized that there's so many different types of writing that I can get my kids to do that I don't get to if I follow my curriculum or my anthologies or my books that are given to me. I won't get there. I'm going to write stories, sure. I'm going to write informational texts, yes. I'm going to write opinion pieces. But after that, there's so many other things that we can do. We can write poetry, for example. We can write menus. What is your favorite? What is all your favorite food? And we're going to make a menu in our journals. You can do maps. I do the first week of school. I do a life map. So now this is different for a third grader because they haven't lived for very long. But you could do something like this where they draw pictures of their life, where they've been so far. So a life map from birth to current day, to present day. I have done bank accounts. If someone were to give you $100, what would you spend? And I teach them how to put a line item in, and then is it a withdrawal, and how much is it, and then what is your new balance, so they can create a little, what do they call them, a register for your checkbook. And in that register, you'll find out very quickly what the kid cares about. You'll find out very quickly what sorts of things that child likes or wants to spend money on. You'll find some who save the $100. You'll have some who spend it all. Some will give it away. It's very interesting what they choose to do with $100. For my kids, I give them $1 million. I give them $1 million, and they get to spend up to $750,000. And it's hilarious to see what they come up with. I have my kids, in a more serious note, write eulogies. I have my students write eulogies to people who have passed away, eulogies of famous historical people. I also have them write odes. So odes are a type of poem that celebrate things. So I can write an ode. One of the most famous poems that we've probably read in school is Ode to My Socks. So you can have them write love poetry to an object. An ode to my shoes, an ode to my backpack, an ode to my seat in the car, an ode to my dog. So the journal really gives you this opportunity to write so many different types of writing. An email, they can actually handwrite an email, a letter. You get the point, right? I'm giving you enough difference here to show you that there's so many things that students can write about in so many different ways, instead of always writing informational opinion and narrative. You can have them write in so many different ways, and it's fun and it's different and it's exciting. It could be fantasy. They could draw treasure maps. It doesn't matter, as long as they're writing and as long as they're using their imagination and as long as they are having an opportunity to know that there's all types of writing out there that we need to teach. So this is how I set it up. The first page is a table of contents. The first page of the journal is a table of contents. I want them to keep track of the date. I want them to keep track of the title. I want them to keep track of the type of writing. So they'd write ode, or they'd write business letter, or they would write advertisement, or map, or check register. And then I want them to write the page number so that I'm teaching them how to be organized, so it becomes a project. And the page numbers coincide with, of course, the table of contents, so I can flip right to whatever this writing is. On the front of the journal, they can decorate it with pictures, they can do drawings. What I do with my kids is they cut out pictures, they put them over the top, then we take packing tape and we put strips of packing tape over the pictures, we tuck it inside, and it makes a laminated cover. So that's what we do at the 8th grade level. If you want something a little bit less, you know, a little bit more you're in control of it and less of the students are in control of it, go to the 3-ring notebook, put 25 pieces of paper in their 3-ring notebooks, get the 3-ring notebook that's a 1/2 inch, and choose the one that has the plastic sleeve on the front and the back. Then the kids can decorate a piece of paper and slide it into the front and slide it into the back, and now you have a personalized journal that can be used throughout the year. I have my kids in their journal write. I push them. So for you guys, I would say, you know, maybe choose a word count. So you're going to write 30 words today. In the middle of the year, you push it to 50 words or 60 words. Towards the end of the year, it's 100 words. So as they do more in the journal and as they write more and more, you can push the expectation and raise it, and they start to write more and more. And it's a great way to develop fluency. Great way to develop fluency, great way to show them different types of writing. So that's the writing journal. And then I have another one called 1x3x10. So you guys can follow me if you want. I'm going to share my screen. This one I developed because students were really upset about writing the 60-minute timed essay. And we need to get our kids writing quickly. And I didn't want to keep assigning timed essays that are 60 minutes in length. So I came up with this concept of 1x3x10. Now, the 1x3x10 stands for 1 page, 3 paragraphs, 10 minutes. That's what it stands for. But as I developed this and taught it over years and years and presented it to lots of different teachers, I came up with, oh, I have a different link, I think. I'm sorry. This is not the right link. Hold on one second here. I came up with some different variations of the 1x3x10. There we go. Yeah, it's better. So this is the 1x3x10, and I'm going to replace that link, so give me just 1 second. I'm going to go over to the agenda so you're in the right spot. If you clicked on the 1x3x10 and it did not take you to the place that I'm talking about, go ahead and click on it again when I'm done here. And voila. So that's another great thing about Google Docs. I made a mistake, which I often do, and you guys now will be able to fix that mistake. All your kids have that mistake fixed, and you just move on from there. So this is the 1x3x10, and it stands for, again, 1 page, 3 paragraphs, and 10 minutes. Now, for some of you might think, are you kidding me? I'm a 3rd grade teacher. There's no way my kids can write 1 page in 10 minutes. I get that. And some middle school kids can't write a whole page in 10 minutes. So what I started to do is challenge teachers to think about it a different way. One, I can just add more time. So it can be a 1x3x20, or I can change what the numbers stand for. So this is a 1 paragraph, 3 details, 5 minutes, 1 sentence, 3 descriptive words in 2 minutes, 1 claim, 3 examples in 8 minutes. These are just examples of what you can do, but imagine what you can do if you tweak this a little bit, adapt it to what you need, and your kids are now writing, and the whole idea is to give them a limited amount of time to write. The whole concept behind this is to push them so that out of their brain, down their arm, to their hand, their ideas are getting on the paper faster than what we normally have happen in our classes. And the concept behind this, what's driving this, is the importance of timed writing, and that they need to be able to get ideas out quickly And one of the ways to do that is to gamify it, is to make it fun and different. So this is one way that we can gamify our timed writing. We give them these really hard expectations, but tell them, if you don't finish, you're not in trouble. That's important. If you don't get it done in the time, you're not in trouble. But I want you to push to it. I want you to try your best to get here. So for some of you, a 1 by 3 by 20 fifth grade teachers might be the right place to start. For some of you, a sentence might be the right place to start. You have 2 minutes, and you can put a timer up. You can use LiteracyTA's timer, or you can use your own, or however you want to do it, and do a countdown. And the kids are trying to write a sentence with 3 descriptive words in 2 minutes. It's fun. The kids like it. It's different. It's challenging. And it, again, moves kids towards fluency, especially in their written voice. So that's the 1 by 3 by 10. You can always go back to that. So here's what I would like us to do for the activity. I've talked to you about dialectal journals. I've talked to you about a writing journal. I've talked to you about doing the 1 by 3 by 10. Those are my 3 ideas. You're going to come to this document, and you are going to, I'm going to change this because it looks like I made the same mistake. You guys are going to add some great ideas for everyone to learn about different writing types for fluency, or different types of activities. So you're going to come into this document and you're going to say, I have an idea, and you might say, 1 by 3 by whatever. Let's just say it was mine. And you say the purpose is to get students writing without thinking too much, right? Then when using this, you might want to change it up. See what this is an open document to help you guys with writing journal ideas. Maybe some of you use history journals, maybe some of you use science journals, maybe you guys have an activity that you do once a week. But I want you guys to share with your colleagues across the district on what sorts of things you're doing. What sorts of things are you doing? How can I do them in my classroom? And then just go at it. So it's 1:20 right now. Let's take about maybe 6 minutes to get as much as we possibly can. Choose a cell or choose a row and start going. If you need to add rows, all you need to do is click on the furthest one and hit tab, and keep hitting tab, and it'll just keep adding more rows, just like that. All right, let's go ahead and wrap up where we are with this document. Again, lots of great ideas. Please take a look at it when you have more time. Try to take some of these from people. Share your ideas. I think there's some fantastic options here, some good things to think about, some great activities. I I encourage you guys also, if you're a third grade teacher, to get with your other third grade teachers in the district and develop a presentation, a Google presentation, and put in your topics and share them with all the third grade teachers so that they have this growing list of journal topics. And when you have a great one, or you think about one on the way to school, or you're watching the news and you're like, yeah, that would be great, add it to that, and then you can just open up the presentation and you have that new topic for the day. It's a great collaborative tool, goes all year long, and then the next year you have them again, you can add to it, you can say that was a great one, kids loved it, but no. And so I actually developed something like that. I'm trying to get people to add to it from our eCoach. So I don't know if you've seen it or not, but in the eCoach, I created a kind of like a across the United States collaboration, and I'm trying to get people to collaborate with me across the country. It's a little hard, I think, sometimes, but my concept of it, as I look for it, was to get teachers across the country working together. So I'm going to show you eCoach real quickly, because I think this is just a really interesting idea. It's in eCoach. It's called Let's Start Collaborating Short Writing Tasks. And when you click on it, I wrote it back in February, there is a slideshow that I've created. And if you advance it, there's that story map I was talking about. There's different activities and prompts that you can use. So I'm trying to get people across the country to add to this, because I think once it's done, and well, I don't know if it'll ever be done, but as we add to it, it just gets better and better, and it becomes pretty incredible as a resource that all of us have contributed to. So I'm open to creating an elementary one and guiding that process and project if that's something you're interested in. But this is very powerful. Across the country, people collaborating and trying to work together without having to always work just in the same classroom or same school. And I call it a National Professional Learning Team, an NPLT, where we could collaborate across the entire country and not worry about it. You guys can work with me like we're doing now using online tools. So I just wanted to share that with you as an option. All right, so in closing, because I want to respect your time, and we started pretty close to on time today, I wanted to talk about LiteracyTA school membership. So Carrie and I just decided this morning that we were going to continue supporting the TA. It's going to be expiring at some point in December or January, and we decided to continue it all the way through, but not just give you the TA, but we signed up all the elementary schools for what's called our school membership. So the school membership is designed to support you throughout the year in working on teaching kids how to read, speak, and write about texts. And we are going to meet with school leaders once a month and talk about where you are and what supports you need. And the benefit to you is that there's going to be more awareness on campus of the direction that we would like to take with teaching kids how to read text and then write about those texts. We're going to encourage you through the membership to put up posters, like my last challenge that I gave you. Put up posters in your classroom of the reading and writing process. We're going to invite you to our LTAU universities online or in person. If you guys want to come to San Diego, that would be awesome. Or I can come out there and maybe we can host a university at UNC Chapel Hill. That would be amazing, or Duke University. So we can come out there and do a university as well. But what the membership is really going to do is keep us connected. And it's going to move us in the direction where there's a common language and a common approach, which is, I think, what you want, what your district wants, and what your students need. There's not going to be any obligation other than just committing to teaching skills, which you guys do. And we're just here to support you in different ways through our student materials, through our PD, our professional development, and through our online resource. So the school membership is something that you'll start hearing about. It's something that is just going to package us a little bit better for you so that it makes a bit more sense instead of it just being an online tool that you may or may not use. There are many of you, in the last words, there are many of you who said, I'm going to use it, but not yet, or I'd like to, but not yet, in the last survey that we did. I encourage you to take the time to get to know the TA, to get to know it so that you can use it next year. There's a lot of great resources, a lot of things that you can use with your kids, and I know that it will help them when we use it. So, guys, I want to thank you for an incredible year. It was great meeting with you these 3 times online. It's always good to be in front of you. I trust that I'll be working with you in the future. Literacy doesn't go away. It's always going to be something that you guys care deeply about and work towards every day, and I'm just excited to be a part of it. So unless there are questions or concerns, we're going to sign off, and this is our last online training for the year. And it looks like you guys like this platform, so it could happen again next year. So I thank you. I hope you guys have a great end of the year. Keep working hard for your kids and enjoy the summer every moment that you have. And then spend some time getting ready for next year because it's coming faster than we know it. So thank you very much, everyone. It's always great working with you. Thank you.